Hey guys, and welcome to the Surge Growth Partner Podcast, a podcast where we interview top-level executives inside leading and growing companies in the IT and cybersecurity space. Excited to have our guest today, Steve Pressman. We'll be diving into his story, what his company Alpine Cyber Solutions specialize in, and some engaging insights into the cybersecurity industry. So I'll go ahead and kick it off to you, Stephen. If you could just introduce yourself, tell a quick snippet of your story and your background prior to working at Alpine Cyber Solutions.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. I appreciate you having me on.
Of course.
My background is a little bit diverse. Right before my business partner and I started Alpine Cyber Solutions, we were in the defense and intelligence industry. We worked for Lockheed Martin in one of its offshoot subsidiaries for a few years, quite a few years, before deciding to step out onto our own. And really, when we started the company, our goal was to bring some of the rigor that we had learned in those defense and intelligence days to those companies that at the time, back in 2011, 2012, 2013, around that time, people knew that cyber existed, but they didn't perhaps think it applied to them. And it presented us with an opportunity to really bring something to the market that perhaps only large companies were perceived to have been able to afford at that point. Going a quick moment back before that, I actually started my professional career as an elementary school teacher. I went to college for computer science and pivoted when I was in college into an elementary ed degree. And I taught for a couple of years before I decided to come into the IT and cyber space. And I really think that helped shape the person who I am. I think it helped to shape my communications and how I relate to people, because in reality, this world that I'm an expert in these days is not the easiest thing for people to understand. So being able to bring that to them without being in any way mean about it, but bringing it down to a level that people can understand is often a skill that folks in my position don't possess. And I feel like my elementary ed background has kind of brought me here.
Yeah, that's such a great point. I think someone else had kind of touched on that. But, the hard thing about cybersecurity is taking a really complex topic and simplifying it so that the modern day man can just understand it, right? And not someone that is obsessed with tech as some of these people are, right? You, like yourself, you're probably immersed in technology and you know all the different jargon and all the different tools that you can kind of set up. I think it's important to kind of simplify that and just package it so that people can understand it, right?
Yeah, it's easy to say, explain it like I'm five. It's hard to do it, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm always kind of curious as to what was it that initially sparked that interest. You talked about how you kind of, switched majors. What was it? Was there a particular incident that kind of just stood out to you? And you're like, you know what, I want to pursue IT and in a tech field. What was it that kind of sparked that?
Yeah, it's kind of a weird confluence of events that happened at that point in my life. I was going through sort of an identity crisis, and I'd always been that techie kid. I was a computer guy, and I always thought I would go into something in technology. But when I got to the School of Engineering and Applied Sciences at the University of Pennsylvania, it wasn't in the direction I was expecting. It was heavy in the development side, and that really didn't speak to me. And something about my life at that point, it didn't speak to it. So I took some time, figured out what I wanted to do, took a path. My mom was a teacher, so I sort of went in that direction. And then when it was time to look at my life and see the things that I wanted, my goals and my priorities, I realized that teaching is great and it'll always be a part of me. But it didn't really scratch the itch of wanting to be that techie guy. And it's really hard to put a finger on, but I fell into doing technology support for the school district I worked for in southeastern Pennsylvania. And it became sort of a side hobby passion. And I started teaching night classes in IT and in technology to adults and to the elderly. And I realized I needed to go back into it in order to really scratch that itch deeply. And I was lucky. I ended up at a job fair and Lockheed Martin was hiring. And my soon-to-be boss saw the passion in me and gave me the chance. And when the opportunity arises, I try to say yes when there's a strange new opportunity in front of me, and it really worked out for me in this case.
Yeah, that's amazing. I always love to hear the humble beginnings or where everything kind of starts, and to hear where just you got that initial passion to go and obviously, like you said, build a dedicate your life to something, right? Essentially, it's what a lot of people are doing, and so it's always fascinating for me to kind of hear the different stories behind that.
Sure, and
You know,
there's a lot of minutia in there too, and this industry is not monolithic. I mean, you've got people who come from developer background, from IT background, from architecture, from help desk, and become cyber people. Cyber people are a diverse group. It's not a single set of skills. I
definitely,
came from more of an IT touch, server support, DevOps in the early days of DevOps, and that has sort of colored the way I treat the cyber world now. I come at it from an application centric standpoint, as opposed to people who came from network architecture or network engineering. They come at it from a where's that cable plug in, show me the border, and all of those sorts of things. And it's just a
yeah.
different way of looking at the same topics.
Definitely, definitely. Now, I'm curious to kind of get your take on, obviously being inside the industry for a little bit, and you've probably seen the evolution of it, right? You've probably seen IT and when it used to be called information security before it even became cybersecurity, right? And
Right?
I'm kind of curious as to, maybe after seeing all that evolution and where we are in today's modern day and age, what do you see as, some, it's a loaded question, right? There's a lot of trends, I'm sure, but in terms of like, hot topics that you're really seeing that people should really pay attention towards if they are in the cybersecurity industry or
Yeah, it's
IT.
funny. I'm going to be that guy, and I'm going to go right to the elephant in the room. Artificial intelligence is not going to be, it is the game changer that we hoped and feared it would become. The outside of cybersecurity, any industry right now, if you're not looking at how you can leverage artificial intelligence to do your job better, to serve your customers more efficiently for less, you're really doing a disservice, and you're going to go the way of the dodo. Those skills of being able to use artificial intelligence to get to the answer is even more core to being able to work in 2024, 2025, 2026 than Googling was for us back in 2000, 2001, 2002. Prompt engineering and getting the artificial intelligence to give you the high fidelity answer so you can spend as little amount of time cleaning up and scrubbing the answers of coming out of a large language model. That's an art that people are going to need to take care of. Now, cybersecurity also has the additional fun of not just using it, and you have to protect it.
Yeah.
So there's three sort of dimensions where you need to protect artificial intelligence. I've got customers who are asking me, and we've provided, a policy that says when can my people use ChatGPT or any kind of generative AI model. So protection of the company from what artificial intelligence might bring. That's one aspect that we as security people need to comprehend. And perhaps there'll be some advanced level of DLP in the future that can prevent the worst of the worst bad things from occurring, but maybe there won't be. Which brings me to the second piece, which is using AI to protect us. So not just protecting us from it, but using it as a tool to then determine if somebody's doing something they're not supposed to do, to then identify patterns in behavior. That's going to be really transformative in our space, and it's already starting to get there.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that you can have a level one security analyst sitting at a desk who has the ability to essentially map how they would respond into an artificial intelligence model that takes them and makes them look like a level two. It bumps everybody up a level. So now
Yeah.
these tools that are leveraging it are a piece. And then the third piece, finally, is the protection of the artificial intelligence itself. So you've got, protection from it, protection with it, but also protection of it. What if you have a large language model in your company and you feed it all of your pricing information? Okay, well, now what happens to that level one grunt who's asking questions about how to do something in their day-to-day job? Are they going to accidentally stumble upon your pricing numbers and be able to exfiltrate those to your business opponents? You have to protect against that. I know
Yeah.
Microsoft is doing a lot of thought leadership in that space right now in terms of mapping the source documents and the data that it gleans from those source documents into the results that it would get. But my goodness, we all have to accept it, and more than accept it, embrace it, and be ready to use it. Otherwise, you're not going to be important anymore, and you're not going to have a place in the future of cyber or of IT.
I mean, AI is disrupting a lot of industries, right? Obviously, IT and cybersecurity are at the forefront of, AI technology in general, but I think that every industry is becoming impacted by it in some way, shape, or form, right?
Sure.
And ChatGPT, I mean, I'm curious as you were talking. I'm curious as to how many people are really using it in their day to day life, just to simplify certain tasks or to, if there's any type of like, especially with this new update. I don't know if you've just
Yeah.
seen it. It's come out with some really new gimmicks. I mean, you can upload the files now to it, and it can review files. So there's
The
definitely some
bots.
really,
Yeah.
yeah, there's really some cool, applications that you can use this for. But like you said, it kind of comes with that double edged sword because, even I've talked with some other guests about kind of just the implications of AI on, when you are using it as a threat actor, right? And you're able to send out massive emails or phishing emails with AI, and being able to leverage this technology to do bad, right? And so there is obviously that element where it's like, you have to be able to now, like you said, create those products that are able to defend against AI as well, and
Right.
be able to combat it as well. So it's a very interesting day and age that we live in. I'll tell you that much. And I'm very curious as to see in the next kind of 5 years or 10 years what happens to this technology because it's really at its infancy.
Yeah.
And
But it's yet as an infant, it's still already impactful. That's
yeah.
the thing that's crazy. And it's funny. I was at I run the Greater Philadelphia Amazon Web Services user group, and our
Mhm.
user group had a great session with a company that sponsored to show what they're doing with a large language model using AWS's AI services. And it was an aha moment for me. This was only a couple of months ago, but it was an aha moment to say this isn't cheating. When ChatGPT came out, it's like, oh, all the kids are using it to write their term papers. Those cheaters. No, this isn't cheating. This is using the tools at your disposal. And
Yeah.
if we can't get past that mind block, that mental block of saying this is the wrong way of doing things, it's like get off my lawn, you kids. We're going to let the world pass us by.
Mhm.
So I've tried to challenge myself since then to say, okay, when I'm building something, or even if it's something for my customers, if I need to write a policy or something like that, I'm going to start with the function and the framework and the structure with a large language model. I might not use ChatGPT. I might use something that won't leak any data if I put something out there. But at least then I can start on third base. I don't have to start at the plate. I can
Yeah.
be ahead of the game and be ready to go.
Definitely, definitely, and to your point as well of kind of like the regulation of AI, I think that's coming as well. And I'm curious as to if it's going to be too late, right? Because that's another thing. It's like I hope the regulation of AI comes in sooner than later because, like you said, this privacy element to it. I mean, there's just so many. It can almost get maybe too smart for its own good, right? And so we have
Sure,
to make sure that we can put the proper policies in place to kind of protect companies, organizations, protect their data because, like you said, it's just something that if they're able to if they put something in that's able to be accessed by everyone, that's going to be a fiascos in many different apartments. So
sure,
um,
absolutely.
I did want to now segue a little bit and to kind of talk about exactly what you guys are building over there at Alpine Cyber Solutions. And I kind of wanted you maybe just detail a little bit about your service offering, kind of where you think maybe clients get the most value from. Why don't we first just talk about exactly what you guys do over at Alpine Cyber Solutions, and then we'll kind of go into where you think clients maybe get the most value from working with you guys.
Absolutely. So, Alpine Cyber has always been a sort of two-headed monster. When we started the company 11 years ago, we were focused on my business partner was a security guy. I was a cloud guy. Cloud and security at the time, it really didn't make a ton of sense to say them in the same sentence. Yeah, you needed to secure the cloud, but people who were into security didn't understand cloud. And unfortunately, some of the people who were in the cloud didn't understand security. So that said, since then, I think those worlds have really come together a lot in that the public cloud infrastructures and their advanced security stacks that come with them really do provide that connective tissue between the two sides of my business, which is awesome. The world has come together in a way that is meaningful for my customers and my products. So on the cloud side of the business, we do managed DevSecOps. So if you're a company that does software development at all, you probably have a DevOps pipeline where software gets from code to deployed to production, tested in between. What we do is we help you strategize around what can you do to bring the security components into that so that when I take code and I deploy it to my test environment, I have an automated job that kicks off and tests to make sure I haven't introduced any known easy vulnerabilities, or any of the software I brought in from that third-party library isn't dangerous or has known vulnerabilities within it. So that, and then move that through the pipeline, right? So then when you get to the next point after you're in test and you go into staging, well, then we can see what it looks like dynamically and test to make sure there's nothing really knowable. So that in the end, you've got a more defect-free, more secure product in production than you would have if you didn't have our pieces. So customers who write code are able to more trust in the output coming out of the end, that they're not going to have expensive, embarrassing, dangerous bugs that are going to come back and bite them. On that IT side, cloud and IT side of the house, we also do things like cloud migrations. As I mentioned, we're partners with Amazon Web Services for running the user group in Philadelphia. But we also do Azure. We also do Google. We understand that the cloud is multifaceted and has many different, forms that we need to make sure we understand. Now, burying the lead on the security side. On the security side, we do what I consider to be some really great things for companies that know they need a secure infrastructure or secure application or secure company, but they don't necessarily have the time or knowledge or expertise is the word I'm looking for to get that done. So we bring that across multiple facets. As I mentioned before, cybersecurity is a very diverse set of skills, but everybody needs an information security officer. The information security officer sits at the top and directs how all the rest of the securing of your environment is. We offer a virtual information security officer or a virtual CISO who will guide those efforts that you need to have in order to be secure, make you a security program and run it. We'll do your pen tests. We'll do your vulnerability assessments. And then most transformationally, we have managed security services where we will do the securing for you. We will patch your systems. We will scan for vulnerabilities. We will monitor your logs and all of your environments to make sure that nothing bad is going on. We'll put a managed endpoint solution on your system so that it'll do your endpoint detection and response, and you'll have a 24/7 capability of people looking at it to make sure that if a ransomware attack occurs or any other kind of infiltration, that it's stopped before it can do you damage. That's really the goal. Stop it before it does damage. We're now working to bring to market bundled security services, where a company that needs all or parts of what I've just talked about can, for one recurring, predictable monthly price, you can have your entire network protected from a policy all the way through an implementation standpoint. And we feel this is really going to be transformative for companies that otherwise would have to try to figure it out on their own. We help guide you to get there, and we don't give you the roller coaster ride of projects that you often get when you work with a consulting company. We give you a nice, stable amount of money for the life of your contract to make sure that you're getting that value without breaking the bank.
Yeah, no, that's really neat. And I love how you kind of touched on a little bit of all of your service offerings. You guys do obviously have a comprehensive suite of products. And I kind of like that, I haven't really heard like the DevOps security. I really like that you guys kind of integrate that as well on top of the managed, services that you guys do in terms of security. And, it's such an important thing. I always tell, companies that, when you are growing and you are expanding, you need that security team, right? And you can't just have, especially if you're a bigger company, not to knock on MSPs, but you can't just have an MSP running your security, right? It has to
Correct.
be a dedicated team that's able to respond to threats, that has the proper technology and the personnel in place in order to mitigate threats when they come in, right? Because like you said, even if something comes in, you want to make sure you have that proper incident response team to kind of make sure that those threats are mitigated at a proper time and they don't do more damage than they potentially could, right? Because
Sure,
they're always going to be attacking when the defenses are down, right? That's one thing. It's like not when anybody's maybe watching the alerts, right? And so you to have that 24/7 security, it definitely gives a lot of peace of mind. And
Oh yeah, and 'tis the season, right? We've got Thanksgiving coming up, we've got Christmas and New Year's and all of the other holidays in between. That's when the bad guys like to attack because
Yeah,
everyone's off eating turkey and ham or whatever it is they eat this time of year, and
yeah.
that's when nobody's watching.
Definitely, definitely. I wanted to follow up just a small question. Are you guys kind of, in different industries? Are you industry agnostic, or do you specialize in one, or how does that? What do you guys kind of do in that
We are 100% industry agnostic.
regard?
Our customer base spans aging services communities, so the healthcare industry,
Mm,
retail, financial. We have credit unions and banks as our customers. Really, what it comes down to is it used to be customers who had a regulatory need to be secured or to meet a certain compliance standard. They were our best customers. They still are, but more and more, any customer that has a business to business relationship with someone else is starting to become in scope because third party risk management is here to stay. So if I'm a company and I'm doing business with yours and you're a service provider to me, I'm going to be checking to make sure you're secure. So it's almost like that same level of compliance requirement because you're doing business with another business to ensure them that they're safe. Well, that company that's doing the work may not have enough a big enough operation to have an information security officer of their own. Well, they can have a fractional CISO to do that work for them from us. And not only will we be there to guide them, we'll we'll bring the solutions and implement them and make it so that they can continue to do business and earn revenue.
Got it. Got it. Now, I did want to ask you. I know you probably have a ton of different clients that probably have different unique challenges, and they're probably experiencing certain types of pain points. But if you had to say, what are some of the most common challenges that most of your clients are facing before maybe they begin working with you, and kind of how you help them have that smooth transition and provide them the solution that they need to their pain points or their
Sure.
challenge.
So I'm sorry. Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple that really jump right out to the front. Regulatory compliance is always going to be a challenge. Most organizations of a given size are used to dealing with it, have internal compliance organizations, and have it sort of under control. But those that are smaller, younger, are really starting to understand that they need to take it seriously. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to continue to do business. And along with that, and really a kissing cousin to that, is that third party risk management that I just talked about. I've got a couple of customers who are young, growing, and they're trying to do business with larger partners. And those larger partners are saying, okay, cool. Show me your policies.
Yeah.
Show me how you deal with incident response. Show me your EDR solution. And they're sitting there saying, here's my laptop. I mean, that's all my infrastructure is right here. I'm a small software development shop. So those sorts of customers, they're starting to get to that comprehension that it's not optional to be
Yeah.
secure. As much as it's easy to not be, it costs money. And it's not always going to be that your nephew with the computer science degree is going to be able to do enough for you.
Yeah.
And to that end, that's the gorilla in the room is staffing. There is just not enough. There are not enough cybersecurity professionals worth their salt in this world. And I know that the colleges and universities are doing better at trying to turn out more of them. Unfortunately, we've seen evidence that some of them are just churning out people with a compliance degree that has cybersecurity on it or a low
Yeah.
level IT degree. It's tough to really find that right balance, that right mix. And that's where coming to knowledgeable security first security providers, managed security providers like Alpine is the way to be. If you're a small organization and you're going to try to lure a young cybersecurity professional with no growth prospects, with no team to fall back on, with no training plan that's going to be meaningful to their career, you're fighting an uphill battle. And the person you're going to get is not going to be the cream of the crop, unfortunately.
Yeah, and also, I'm it's always kind of baffles me why people would not go and hire an outsourced security team, because for me it kind of just makes so much sense, right? And to try to hire internally and to then pay the salary that kind of comes with those types of professionals, you're gonna get way a much more bang for your buck when you hire like a virtual CISO, when you hire a whole team that can kind of watch your company 24/7. It gives you the same type of value for not having to have the headache of hiring internally. So for me, it's never
Yeah,
really made much sense why people do that. I was talking with someone, they're like, maybe it's like an ego thing where people just want everything in house, but it always just makes sense for me to just, why don't you just outsource security, you know?
yeah.
Um,
Well, and it's funny because I think some of it is ignorance. It's not really knowing that security is a separate discipline from IT.
mhm.
I've got customers who say, well, why would I pay you to do that when I've got a help desk person sitting there? They could be triaging events that come out of my SIEM. Really? That person who's going to stop doing that as soon as a new ticket comes in or a new project comes in because they're under the master of the IT department, not under some security only competency, would be at risk or be it CEO. It's just it's mind blowing that in this day and age that is actually passing for due care. It's really not due care.
Definitely, definitely. Well, great. I love that we covered some of those topics. I kind of wanted to maybe jump in a little bit and ask you just about your specific role, being I see the CTO and president of Alpine Cyber Solutions. I'm curious as to some of those main challenges that you see being the president and being the CTO of your company, and if you'd be willing to share any of those.
Absolutely. I love complaining. I mean, talking about this. My job is definitely an ever changing one. Whatever I tell you right now, come back to me and ask me again in a week, and I'll give you a different answer. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Um, Over the first 10, 11 years, again, our company is coming upon its 11th birthday in January. And in that time, we started small, grew organically, and continued to stay at a reasonable size, from what I consider to be a reasonable size. Um, we always were, my partner and I always have been technologists. We're not business people. We don't have MBAs. We don't have accounting backgrounds. And we've had to bring in those skills and competencies because you can pry the keyboard out of my cold dead hands. That's always been my attitude. I want to touch, I want to do, I want to help. I get a rush from helping my customers solve the unsolvable, solving the challenges that are in their space and making them happy. It's like the ultimate pat on the back attaboy. Well, that's
Mhm.
all well and good, but guess what? As the CEO, as the CTO and president of the company, I'm having to wean that away from myself a bit because I need to be focused on uh, ensuring that the products I'm bringing to market continue to be the best and the most important and the most up to date that they can be. Because if not, I'm going to easily get surpassed by my competition. My customers depend upon me to be the one to know that the solution in this month of this year is not the same solution as 12, 16, 18 months ago. Because some of these technologies that I have to bring to the table maybe didn't exist, or maybe didn't exist as manageable services. So my CTO hat is constantly staying abreast of the technology that's in the space and understanding where my customers' attitudes are and appetites are for the risk that we defer, that we mitigate for them. So that CTO piece to me is really building products, determining where the market is, letting the market influence the products as an appropriate amount, letting the art of the possible influence those things as well, and crafting them into something that I can hand to salespeople and get onto the street. So that's my CTO piece. On the president side of the house, I like doing what I'm doing right now. I like talking. I like engaging. I am the chief spokesperson for my business, and I always will be because this is what I love to do too. This is the elementary school teacher standing in front of the class from gosh, a long time ago when I was in college learning to do those things. This is what lights me up. Let me be that person who talks to you about how my solutions are going to make your problems disappear, or shrink a whole lot. We always like to say there's always residual risk.
Yeah.
Our friends in the insurance industry understand what I'm talking about. But yeah, everything else is sales, marketing, leadership, uh, defining the practices that make our employees successful, uh, courting new customers, talking to vendors and customers, building strategic relationships with partners, and really aiming the weapon that is Alpine Cyber against the forces of evil.
Definitely. I like how you packaged that. I did. There was the end part of that where you're talking a little bit about sales and marketing, and I'm sure you know. You've probably been with the company for a while, so I'm sure you've had your hands on both of the sales and marketing infrastructure.
Yeah.
I'm curious to have you kind of elaborate on some of the challenges that you've had inside your business regarding to those both of those facets, and maybe some solutions that you guys have found really helpful to kind of help you guys kickstart some growth.
Well, I hope I can come up with something for you, but I'll tell you, we've seen a lot. Years ago, when we first decided organic growth wasn't going to scratch the itch and that we were going to need to actually go out and focus on some outbound sales reach,
Mm-hmm.
we didn't know the difference between marketing and sales at the time. Again, not an MBA.
Yeah.
So we engaged with a marketing company thinking that, hey, marketing company, I'm going to pay you every month. You're going to bring me customers and we're going to make lots of money.
Yeah.
Zero customers, and a year later, and realizing that we had made a terrible, terrible mistake and spent a lot of money making that mistake,
Mm-hmm.
and learning a pretty good lesson that it takes work. Even if you outsource the competency, it takes work. And we've really worked to get better at defining our products, defining them as units that can be sold, as instead of me being in a meeting with a customer and customizing my products on the fly to meet exactly what words they're saying. It's sort of like jazz instead of a player piano, like it should be.
Yeah.
It's improvisational.
Yeah.
That can't be. We can't outsource that to somebody. They're not us. They don't know our business that well.
Yeah.
So we moved on, and we decided instead to go with a company that marketed. They were guaranteed a certain number of leads every X, whatever it was. It was awful. Another failed attempt. We only stayed with them for a couple of months. I won't name names because I'm sure it's not necessarily all of these companies' faults, but the marketing side of the house was not really cutting it. I'm going to stay on the marketing trend, and then we'll talk sales in a minute. Finally, in the last calendar year, we spent most of the year engaged with a marketing company that was used by one of our competitors. We saw on their website, and we went after it. And we quickly realized, well, we didn't quickly enough realize. After a time, we realized that they were focused on digital clicks, on clicks. They were focused on presence. They were focused on a lot of things that didn't bear fruit. And our status meetings where they were trying to tell us it was a successful month because our number of impressions was up did not land well with my business manager who can't cash a check from an impression. So that idea that you can just outsource this even to a well-reputed company and a well-intentioned company is a real challenge for a
Mm-hmm.
small company who doesn't have a business savvy at its core provenance. So my guidance on the marketing side is to find a coach, engage with a coach, and our current coach is a wonderful professional who every month gets us rallied around a topic, moves us into a direction, and we are doing the social. We are doing the marketing. We are doing it all internally. We will spin it out. We will make it an external thing once we have it understood and we understand the metrics that we need to measure in order to do it. But doing it ourselves without guidance, not a great idea. Outsourcing it out of hand, not a great idea. It takes work and guidance at the same time.
There's such yeah. Oh, go
I was
ahead.
going to say, I was going to move over to sales.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Sales, over our lifetime, we've had two different salespeople work for us. Neither of them really came from exactly our space. And they were both well-intentioned individuals, but never really brought us the value that we had needed.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that is likely because our products were not well-defined and in the little packages, like I mentioned. But what we needed there was some better leadership. We needed them to be leaders and be able to take things and build a sales program. And we hadn't found that until we decided to do it ourselves. Right now, my sales team is my senior leadership team.
Mm.
We together, individually, go on sales calls to bring our product to the masses. Um, that is limiting because we all also have other jobs, and it's tough to prioritize a potential new business with an existing company that needs work done, right? That we already are contracted with. So what I foresee for us in the next month to 6 months is a thoughtful decoupling of that work into a trusted third party with us guiding them as opposed to us doing it all or us just shipping it to them to do by themselves.
Definitely. Yeah, no, you touched on a lot of great points that I think is very important for, you know, CEOs and founders to kind of understand that you have to understand the sales and marketing process, right? As much as I feel like a recurring theme that I'm seeing with a lot of, tech-based founders is they kind of just don't like that stuff. And it's fair enough, right? They just don't like the sales and marketing sides of the business. And so they kind of just go on to not want to have any kind of say or, go on to any influence any of it. And that I think that's the wrong approach, right? Just because you may not like it, you still have to learn it and you still have to understand it. You have to figure out exactly what works for your business. And I think it's important to kind of keep those two facets, sales and marketing, separate, but also to make sure they're working together, right? Because I think
Right.
that's a big point. Because marketing influences sales and sales influences marketing, right? The feedback from both, they're like a positive feedback loop. And I think one of the reasons why marketing companies in general don't do, like lead gen agencies, right? Specifically, don't have the best results is because they often are detached from the sales side, right? And so, in order to kind of have a cohesive process, you need them both to be kind of intertwined to see this what's happening on the sales call, to see the questions that are being asked, and then also to be able to relay that back to marketing so that you can figure out exactly the right type of messaging. So
Exactly.
that's what I think is kind of what's needed in the industry right now in terms of, not just outsourcing one thing, but making sure that those things are being worked together. And it takes the part of the owner, like you said, to kind of drive those things forward as well. And not just saying, hey, this is your job. I paid you for this, but also realizing that, I need to put in the effort as well in order to make sure that the success is going to come from this. So I think there's a lot
And
of great points.
the other piece in there is measurement. If you're the business owner, you have to have key performance indicators that you're keeping an eye on to say, is the ball moving forward? Because honestly, if you just sit back and your only KPI you care about is number of customers or amount of new money coming in the door, you're going to be sorely disappointed. You need to understand the process. You need to understand how much is coming in the funnel, how much is getting to the next phase. And that's how
Exactly.
you're going to be able to really have an impact on the performance of your sales and marketing program.
Well, yeah, I mean, and the sales cycles in the cybersecurity world, they're very long. So you can't
Sure.
judge, like usually, I mean, for at least from my experience, it's usually like a 6 to 12 month kind of sales cycle, depending on the contract that, you may catch someone in a buying window, right, at that perfect amount of time. But
Right.
usually, a lot of the times they're having to be nurtured. The pipeline's having to be, grown. And whenever they are off the contract, that's when you can, you make your move. But like
Right.
like we said, to understand that the metrics, what you have in the pipeline, what's potentially going to close, understanding what's your closing percentage, that's big, right? In terms of being able to even calculate revenue and understand if something's working, right?
Right. That's the
That's a
key.
big
How
thing.
do I know if I'm throwing money into a hole or if it's actually going to become something?
Yeah, definitely. Well, hey, I kind of wanted to just end with maybe one more question in terms of, kind of what your guys' vision is for the next 12 months. I know you did talk about some different products that you guys are bringing to market and some new things that you're kind of, uncovering. But is there anything that kind of comes top of mind that you would like to share that you think is really exciting for you guys within the next 12 months?
Yeah, no, I think our to me, we're going to kind of take the guards off in the next 12 months or so. We're going to stop just focusing on regulated industries and stop just focusing on letting things come to us and really start talking to those companies that are trying to get cybersecurity insurance, that are trying to do B2B relationships, and making sure that our message as it gets out there is very clear that we are not in this business to just scrape money away from companies. We are there to bring value. We are there to show that a thoughtful and well implemented cybersecurity program can not just save you from problems, but can earn you money in terms of trust with your customers. And that kind of new refocused sales and marketing direction, I think, is really going to be something that's exciting. These bundled products that we're looking to bring to really be that one-stop shop for that company that is looking for a well-integrated solution is going to really scratch a lot of itches.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, I'm excited for you guys. I definitely think that, you guys got some exciting times ahead. It's always fun pushing new products and going into new industries. It's, you'll definitely have your hands full. That's for sure.
Absolutely, it's a battlefield out there.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm sorry. I may have bit the bullet a little bit too early. I did want to ask you one more question. It's one question that I like to ask just all of
Oh
my
boy.
guests in terms of, it's a loaded one. So be prepared. But it's kind of, out of your career, what are some of the most important things that you've learned that you'd be willing to share?
Okay, so I've gotten this question or some a form of this question before, and to me, one of the best things that I can tell people is to not let opportunity pass you by. Say yes, take a chance, especially when you're young. You're made of rubber. You'll bounce back. When an opportunity to go in a different direction comes your way, take it, try it. Because if you're educated, if you're experienced, or even if you're not very experienced, but you're coming up, that yes can be the thing that skyrockets you into a new direction that you never would have picked for yourself, but is really enriching to your soul. So that's as simple as it can be. Take those opportunities when they come. Don't get caught in analysis paralysis. Say yes when it comes up.
I love that. I think that that's great advice. And if more people took that, there'd be more successful people. I'll tell you that much because analysis paralysis will definitely hold you back. And you need to not,
Absolutely.
you need to take the opportunities as they come because you don't know when they'll come again. Right.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Absolutely.
Well, hey man, it's been absolutely a pleasure talking to you. You've done a phenomenal job talking about your company and what you guys do. I want to obviously leave your either LinkedIn or your website in the description. What is maybe the best place to contact you directly or to contact your company if they're interested in hearing what you guys do? What would be
Yeah,
the best place to kind of find you?
yeah, both. I'm on LinkedIn all day long. AlpineCyber.com. You can reach me directly, Steve at AlpineCyber.com. I do respond to my emails as long as they're not phishing emails, and I want to talk to as many people as who will talk to me. So I look forward to it. And thank you, Alex, for so much. I really appreciate this opportunity to talk.
Of course, of course. It was a pleasure. Well, hey guys, if you did make it all the way to the end, we do appreciate it. We would appreciate just a like, comment, and subscribe and share this video with your friends if you found this content helpful. Make sure you guys have a great rest of your day and take care. Ciao.